Hello. Get out of my personal space, man.
Today we're talking about personal finance. I'm excited.
I am too. This is like one of those things that I know people are searching for. And I think personal finance is intensely personal.
Yeah.
It's such like an individual thing. When we talk about budgeting and cash flow, everyone has a different story to tell.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's actually interesting that you say that people are searching for personal finance. However, it is very personal.
It is.
So it's like, I'm searching for information,
right?
But it might not be personal to me.
Right.
That's kind of ironic.
And I would throw out this caution to people listening or watching this, which is there is so much information online of people who are sharing what they do or how they do it, including us. And my little caveat warning here is that take everything that everyone says online with a little grain of salt, because their experience is unlike your experience most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always hesitant when students come up to me at events or I'm at corporations and they're asking, very pointed personal finance questions. The most common one I get is, well, where should I put my money?
Yeah.
Like, how should I invest my funds? I'm not going to answer that question before I know 15 things about you and help you set a budget and all those kinds of things. I'm sure the same is true of you in coaching.
As you're sharing that, I'm curious, like, what would you say is the one thing that makes your personal finance story personal? Like, specific to Adam Carroll? And I'll share first, but the first thing that comes to me is, like, I am a minimalist.
Right.
So I'm always coming from a lens of minimalism.
Right.
So people ask me, where should I put my money? Or what should I spend on? I'm thinking, well, why do you need to spend money in the first place, right? Like, that's where I immediately will come to. I obviously will ask questions, but, like, for me, personal finance is personal in the sense that I'm a very minimalistic person.
Interesting.
So is there anything for, it could be like, and then now another layer of that is I'm in Des Moines and my rent is $700.
Yeah.
Versus San Francisco when it was $4,300.
Right.
So for me, the two things are minimalism and I live in Des Moines now.
Yeah.
It's very personal. What about you? Anything?
So two things. Number one is, I love the quote, if you do for 2 years what most people won't do, you can do for the rest of your life what most people can't do. And my wife and I, when we first got married for 2 years, we lived like broke college kids for 2 years.
Yeah.
And now we're able to do a whole lot more because for 2 years we sacrificed and did everything we were supposed to do. The other thing is I'm a bit contrarian. Okay. So when people ask me, where should I put my money? And they're expecting me to say, you need to put this much in mutual funds and this much in bonds. I don't say that because I don't do that. Like, I'm somewhat contrarian in the way I invest, which has allowed me to be different in how I live my life and how I make money and all of that. So I think there is like traditional wisdom, and then I think there's some contrarian advice out there that can be good for people, but in reality, for some people, it might not make sense.
Yeah. It's very personal.
It is. Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I think, just to highlight and stress, like, one of our intentions with this podcast, with this YouTube channel, is to really ask the right questions and leave you with questions. And in the discovery of what finance is for you, your relationship to money, as if it were a person, why money is important to you, because, more often than not, it's going to be very different from the person, next to you. And so there's a lot of different resources. If you don't know why money is important to you or where to even start, one of the things that we're going to do today is share one of those resources. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I met this woman named Sybil Solomon at a conference, and we sat down and we started chatting about money, personalities, and relationship to money. And she said, she had been a relationship therapist, and that the majority of her clients were having fundamental money issues. Like, that's where they argued. And so she put together this really cool card deck called Money Habitudes.
Money Habitudes.
And the Money Habitudes is a card deck you can order online, and I highly encourage you to do it, particularly if you're sort of unclear or don't have a really firm understanding of your relationship to money, or your spouse for that matter, or significant other. There are 6 main cards in the deck that you then file all the rest of the cards under. And the 6 main cards in the deck are your money personality. The 6 are, you are either planning oriented, status oriented, spontaneous, giving, carefree, or security. And so as an example, Nick, I would guess you're probably planning.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would guess that if you dated someone who was spontaneous, like they go, oh, let's just go do this, and they start spending money, you might get a little weirded out by the fact that they're spending money in a very spontaneous way.
Yep. Yeah.
Because you'd be like, what, is this budgeted or is this, you know?
Yeah.
And they might be like, whatever, chill out. I don't care. It's not your money anyway.
Yeah.
And at some point there may be a rub
Yep.
between the two of you because you're coming at money from a different perspective than the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing is true of someone who is giving oriented, and someone might be giving and spontaneous, which means they're just spontaneously giving money out, but they might not know why they never have financial security. That might be why.
Gotcha.
So check out moneyhabitudes.com for more information on this, but it's really critical in the sense of this whole idea of personal finance. It is personal.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I want you to touch on is Sybil talks about your very first money memory being really impactful.
Yeah.
So why is that impactful as it relates to personal finance?
Yeah, your first money memory is very important because it really does shape and color and essentially guide you in a particular direction in your life around money. One of the most pronounced examples that I really have is a woman that I was working with. She was in her 70s working 3 jobs. And so, we talked about retirement age, right?
Yeah, right.
I think we will. And she's, 5 years past the quote unquote retirement age of 65. She's working 3 jobs. She has 12 maxed out credit cards.
Oh.
And she's also renting, right? And so she actually reached out to me and said, hey, I need to file bankruptcy, Nick. And I was like, okay, before we do anything, let's meet up and talk and see what's going on. So we met at Panera and she treated lunch and I was like, okay, let's, that was very nice, but you shouldn't be spending money right now.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, we have a conversation and we dig into her early money memories. And she recalled this story when she was 12 years old. Her grandpa had asked her to borrow $80. And $80 back in the Great Depression was a lot of money. And so she was like, okay, here's the $80. What is it for? And Grandpa said, well, I'm going to throw you a birthday party. Long story short, she never got the birthday party. And when she asked for the $80 back from her grandpa, he said, I don't have it.
Wow.
So the memory and what she remembers and what she told herself was that money is always taken from me and money doesn't belong to me. So for the next 60 years of her life, she started to really live into that story. And until we actually distinguished it, she got to break free from it. Because I told her, I said, can you see how this early money memory is impacting your current situation today, 60 years later? And she goes, no, I don't see it. And I was like, well, money always gets taken from you and it doesn't belong to you. Every time you get paid, it goes out to 12 credit card companies first.
Right.
Right? And she was like, wow, I see it now.
Dang.
So, early money memories come in all shapes and sizes. For me, one of my memories was my mom asked me if I knew where money came from. Turned to my dad, pointed to his pocket, and it's right there. That's where it comes from. So kind of having how that has impacted me today was just not always being clear on where money was coming in my household. And then even in, I've been doing a lot of work and transformative insight on myself with that particular conversation. So now I know where money comes from. But other times it would just be like, well, I have this bill or this expense. I don't know where the money's going to come from, but I'm just going to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
So I was I was reckless and careless and not aware with where money was coming from.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mine was, I made money as a kid. I think I've told this story maybe on the show before, but I figured out that I could bake a cake on the side of the Hershey's chocolate can. And I made these cakes, and one of my neighbors, I'm sure very graciously and trying to beef up a young kid, was like, this is the best cake I've ever tasted. So I thought, I'm going to sell this cake to my neighbor. And I ended up selling 2 or 3 cakes to neighbors, but made like $27, after expenses. And my memory was that if I want money, I just need to go make it. And I've had entrepreneurial ventures ever since.
Yeah.
I remember selling Jolly Ranchers as a kid in middle school and junior high school. I'd get a big bag of Jolly Ranchers at like Sam's Club or Costco, and then I'd go sell them to my high school friends for $0.25 or whatever. But I just remember always thinking, well, if I need money, I'll just go make money. That was one of my earliest memories.
You were a creator.
I was a creator.
A hustler.
Yes.
A young hustler.
Yes.
An entrepreneur in the making before
Yes,
it was even
indeed.
entrepreneurship, right? That's awesome.
So let's get to like brass tacks around budgets,
Sure.
especially because personal finance is so personal, and we talk about budgeting being so important.
Yep.
Lay out some steps for someone to budget personally.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing that I would really look at, I mean, there's two components, right? There's the income side, and then there's also the expense side, right? How money is flowing out. So what I really look at is cash flow. And what I say is like cash flow is called cash flow because you're looking at how cash flows in and out of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so really the first step is to examine, one, what are you spending money on, right? And then tied into personal finance, are those things that you're spending money on really, really important to you? I have a lot of clients who will, after looking at it, they'll have wine subscriptions or lotto tickets or eating out at Earth Cafe, which is where Taylor Swift eats all the time apparently in Los Angeles. It's like, okay, these are the expenses. Are these important to you? And if they are, we can incorporate into a personal budget. And if not, it's an opportunity to step back and be honest with yourself.
But they can post on Insta that they had lunch with Tay Tay.
That's exactly. So,
Me and Tay Tay having lunch. She's
Personal
way back
win.
here, right?
yeah. So for me, like for the budget, coffee was very important. And it wasn't until I realized I was spending $455 a month on coffee when I realized not that important to me. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole idea of income and outflow is critical for understanding your own personal finance situation. So if you do not know that number, make sure that is your first step.
Yep.
And one of the ways that we encourage doing that is by using a service called Personal Capital with an A, Personal, Capital, personalcapital.com. And what it does, it's an aggregator. So it'll go out and populate from all of your accounts, right? So once you set it up, you put in all your logins and passwords, then you just log into Personal Capital once. It automatically populates all that information, including what you're spending, where you're spending, and it'll give you a little bit better sense of the income and the outflow, which will allow you to start doing that budgeting process.
Yep.
That is tool number one, personalcapital.com down in the show notes. Number two is I like a website called vertex42.com.
Okay.
Do you know about this?
No.
So Vertex, VERTEX, the number 4, the number 2.com. Vertex42 is where you can download all of these crazy Excel spreadsheets. So do you love Excel?
I love Excel.
That's what I thought. Nerd. Excuse me. And so if you want to go out and find a budgeting sheet that works for you, Vertex42 has dozens upon dozens of different budgeting types that work. And you can download them, pull them into Google Sheets and use them there. It is an awesome site.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think we ought to leave them with a challenge.
Okay. What's that?
Challenge is this. Go sign up for Personal Capital. Click on the link below to go do so. Enter all of the data that you need to for it to aggregate your account information, and then go in and study it. Spend a good 20, 30 minutes going through what you see in there. And if it scares you, it's probably a good thing. That might prompt a little bit more action in terms of making the right decision with your money. Second thing, check out vertex42.com and download a budget and just work on filling in a simple family budget or a household budget so that you know what's coming in and what's going out on a monthly basis. Last thing is this, because personal finance is so personal, I think you personally need to be reading and educating yourself. 2 books I would recommend. One is called The Money Savvy Student. It is by this handsome fella on the back, yours truly. The other book is called Winning the Money Game. It is by Adam Carroll and Chad Carden. This book is a really simple read. Did you know that the average college graduate only reads 0.9 books a year?
College graduate reads
Yeah.
0.9 books a year.
0.9 books a
So
year.
Not even a full
book. So we wrote 0.6 of a book that anyone can read. This one's about 0.8, right?
There you go.
But read one of these books, Winning the Money Game or The Money Savvy Student. Check them out. You can get them on Amazon or on masteryofmoney.com. So check those out.
You have not aged.
Thank you. I lost some hair in there somewhere, but I blame that on my children.
Awesome. Thank you for listening. We will see you tomorrow.
On tomorrow's show, what is the retirement age? Should be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.